Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder how babies learn to talk when they can't be told where one word ends and another begins? This is a big question in how we become language users. Think about it. You hear someone speaking, say, French, and it just sounds like a stream of sounds. But somehow, from that stream, babies figure out what are the individual words. That is probably a super important first step in learning a language. For a long time, scientists have been trying to figure out how this happens, and they've even created computer programs, called algorithms, to try and do the same thing. But the problem is, all these computer programs and studies have been done in so many different ways. It is really hard to compare them and see what works best or what is most like how a baby actually does it. So, a team of researchers decided to build a special toolbox, or a suite of computer programs, to make this whole process of studying word segmentation fair and consistent for everyone. They called it WordSeg. They also created a way to test these computer programs and compare them against each other. Imagine you are a baby hearing language. There are no spaces between words like we have when we read. So how do you know where one word stops and the next begins? Babies likely use a few clues. Some clues are obvious, like longer pauses in speech, but other clues are more subtle. They might notice which sound combinations tend to start or end words, or which words often appear together. Scientists have designed computer programs that try to use these kinds of clues to break down speech into words. These programs usually take in the speech sounds, remove the actual word boundaries that we know are there, and then try to guess where those boundaries should be. Then they compare their guesses to the real word boundaries to see how good they are. This is where our new toolbox, WordSeg, comes in. It is designed to put all the different computer programs that study word segmentation into one place, with clear rules for how to use them and how to measure their results. This way, researchers can compare apples to apples. They can even add their own new programs to this toolbox. The researchers imagined two main kinds of users. The first are people who are building these word segmentation computer programs. They can use WordSeg to test their new programs against existing ones and see how well they do. The second group is linguists and other scientists who study language learning, especially in children. They can use WordSeg to analyze their recordings of child-directed speech and try to answer specific questions. Before we dive into how WordSeg works, it is important to understand why this standardization is so needed. In the past, studies comparing different word segmentation methods varied wildly in things like how much speech data they used. Some used tiny amounts, like 10,000 words, while others used huge amounts, like 750,000 words. This makes it impossible to know if one program is better because it is actually smarter or just because it had more data to work with. They also found that the amount of data could affect results in complicated ways, not just a simple more data equals better results. This is why having a standardized way to test programs with controlled amounts of data is so important. Another issue was the type of speech data used. Instead of using random speech, they now recommend using recordings of speech directed at children, like what you'd hear in the child's database. These are more natural and ecologically valid because they were recorded in real environments where children actually listen to them. Even when using child-directed speech, there are differences. Sometimes what one researcher calls a sentence might be very different in length and complexity from what another calls a sentence. Also, researchers sometimes mix data from babies of different ages, which can change things like sentence length and the variety of words used. These factors can significantly impact how well a segmentation program works. But they were often not reported clearly in past studies. And then there is the evaluation. Researchers have debated endlessly about which way is best to measure success. Is it how many words they correctly identified or how many boundaries they got, right? Should they focus on the types of words or the number of times each word appears? This tool, WordSeg, is here to bring order to all this chaos. Scroll the WordSeg suite allows the use of several algorithms drawn from previous literature in a controlled environment that standardizes input and allows users to easily report the full range of input and output statistics, allowing cross-paper comparison scroll. So at its heart, WordSeg is a system that brings together a bunch of different word segmentation programs. It helps you prepare your speech data, describes its characteristics, and then runs all these different programs on your data. Crucially, it also provides a standardized way to evaluate how well each program did. It is like a scientific testing ground for how we identify words in continuous speech. This whole suite is open source, meaning anyone can get it, use it, and even contribute to it. It is built using common programming languages like Python, Bash, and CC. Now, WordSeg itself doesn't do everything from scratch. It assumes you've already done some basic cleaning of your audio recordings and converted them into a phonetic representation. Think of this as turning the sound waves into a sequence of phonetic symbols that the computer can understand. They do recommend other tools that can help with this crucial first step of turning written text or raw speech into these phonetic codes. Once you have your phonetic text, WordSeg has a tool called WordSeg Prep. This tool is like a digital sculptor. It takes your text, where syllable and word boundaries might be marked, and creates two versions. One is a unitized version, where different sound units, like phones or syllables, are separated by spaces. The other is the gold version, which has the correct word boundaries, like an expert linguist would mark them. This gold version is super important because it is what we'll use to check how well the computer programs are doing. WordSeg also includes a tool called WordSeg Stats. This is like a descriptive journalist for your data. It tells you all sorts of interesting things about the speech you are analyzing, like how many words, syllables, and sounds there are, how often different words appear, and even measures of how diverse the vocabulary is. It also calculates something called entropy, which is basically a measure of how ambiguous the segmentation is in the text. A higher entropy means it is harder to definitively say where words begin and end. Now, for the fun part, the segmentation itself. WordSeg includes several different algorithms, each inspired by different theories about how word learning might work. These algorithms are called using commands like WordSeg baseline or WordSeg DP, and each one might need specific settings or extra files to run. These algorithms fall into different categories. Some are sublexical, meaning they focus on the small sound units like phones or diphone pairs. Others are lexical, meaning they try to build up a vocabulary of words. Some are even hybrid, combining both approaches. They also differ in whether they process speech all at once, in batch, or bit by bit, incrementally. One of the algorithms is a baseline segmenter. This is important because it shows you what you might expect by chance. For example, one baseline just randomly puts word breaks in the speech.